There's a lot of transformations in Dragon Ball, like more than some people even know about. And yeah, I know that's kind of an obvious statement. It's kind of a running joke in the series. Every so often, some new form or technique comes around, only to be dropped later for the next biggest transformation. Not that that's inherently a bad thing. As the series goes on, of course enemies are going to get stronger, so Goku, and Vegeta as well, will need different transformations. It's the easiest way to power up someone quickly, and it's the easiest way to make new merchandise. But we're not here to discuss the copious amounts of forms and the problems it brings. Instead, we're here to look at which ones are the best and worst, mainly the latter, and figure out what we can do to fix them. Now we're only going to be covering the mainline Saiyan transformations, the stuff that seemingly can be used by anyone. So for example, something like Broly's Wrathful form, which could technically be used by any Saiyan, we'll talk about that here. But something like DBZ Broly's Legendary form, we're not going to talk about that since that's exclusive to him. I mean, I know Super Broly and Kale have something similar, but they're under different names, so we're not talking about here. That's a discussion for another day. Trust me, I probably hate the naming scheme more than you guys do. But my point still stands, we're only covering the main transformations here. I know, it's kind of a big task and it wouldn't really make sense for people to go back to old forms if they're outdated. But it is a discussion video after all, it doesn't harm anyone being hypothetical. Plus it's fun to look back at whatever Saiyan transformations exist in the series and figuring out ways to make them better. So let's go back to the very beginning of Dragon Ball. Yes, original Dragon Ball actually had the first Saiyan transformation, that being Great Ape. Everyone thought Goku was just a weird monkey boy, but as we obviously get to see later on, the Great Ape or Zaru form is the signature transformation of the Saiyans. At least it was before Super Saiyan came around. As the name implies, the Saiyan that uses it turns into a giant ape, while also having no control over their actions if they don't know how to use the form. It does give a nice boost in power, 10 times. Not too shabby, at least for the time it wasn't. Now it is kind of outdated. So hypothetically, if you wanted to bring this form back, what would we have to do for that? Well, Dragon Ball, for some reason a character wanted to go back to using the Great Ape form, they would be better off just using the Wrathful form. But again, its power kind of pales in comparison to the newer forms. But once a user has control over it, there's not too many drawbacks, so I wouldn't really call it the worst form. Next up, we have Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan isn't just one thing either. For Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, and Gohan, we see 4 different versions of it, usually labeled in different grades. The first time Goku uses Super Saiyan, it's called Grade 1. A very strong form with a multiplier of 50 times. But as we've seen in the Cell Saga, there was a lot of room for improvement. Next we have Super Saiyan Grade 2. We see Vegeta use this and it's called Super Vegeta. When using it, the user bulks up and gets a bit stronger too. Similarly, there's Super Saiyan Grade 3, which basically takes this to the max. The user gets really buff, gaining considerable power, but at the cost of speed. We see Trunks use this when he tries to fight Cell. And then of course there's Super Saiyan Grade 4, a form stronger than Super Saiyan Grade 1, but with perfect stamina control. This is what everyone uses now whenever they're in Super Saiyan. Whenever you see Goku, Vegeta, or Gohan using it, they're in Super Saiyan Grade 4. They have perfect control, and they can use it while being perfectly calm, as we've seen in the Cell Saga once Goku and Gohan first accessed it. But we're not necessarily here to praise the form, we want to actually find the worst of them, the ones that have the least use in the franchise. And this is where we get our first look at an actual really bad form, Super Saiyan Grade 3. Now Grade 1 is outdated, but there's not too many problems with it inherently. Same with Grade 2. And obviously, Grade 4 is the most refined and best form of Super Saiyan, at least for normal users of Super Saiyan. But then there's Grade 3. I think it's safe for me to say that this is one of the worst forms in the franchise, making it a great contender for this video. Both Goku and Vegeta even acknowledge it. When Goku uses it in the time chamber, he says there's no real point. Sure, it makes you stronger, but at the cost of speed, it's not really worth it. Vegeta says the same thing. He could use it if he wanted, but knew it wouldn't really help him too much in a fight. Trunks came to learn this quickly. He tried using it for himself, but the disadvantages in speed were too much. We haven't really seen too much of this form, thankfully, because it is pretty useless. But it actually did show up pretty recently in the Tournament of Power, in a pretty weird scene where Caulifla uses it. Giant buff Caulifla isn't really something I wanted to see. But here we are, I guess. All in all though, this form is pretty bad. And again, the series kinda did my job here. I would give a great way to improve the form, but Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and Trunks already did that by getting Grade 4. But for the next form I actually can offer an improvement, that being Super Saiyan 2. Now Super Saiyan 2 is another easy form to explain, it's just the next step of Super Saiyan. Initially it was actually Super Saiyan Grade 5, but now that everyone's talking about the multipliers, this one is 2 times stronger than regular Super Saiyan, making it a 100 times boost. In terms of drawbacks, it doesn't seem that this form has many. Functionally, it seems to operate the same way as Super Saiyan, basically just a stronger version of it. So if that's the case, what can we do to improve it? But one of the ways we can improve it is to just use it instead of Super Saiyan. It is just a stronger version of Super Saiyan after all. And it's kinda sad that we don't see it have much use outside of the Buu and Cell Saga, because otherwise it's just there. It exists and there's nothing inherently wrong with it. We got to see the Universe 6 Saiyans use it at least, as well as Goku playing a bit with it in the Tournament of Power. But that's exactly what I mean. A lot of times there's cases where the main characters are holding back, specifically when the Saiyans are holding back. Like, regular Super Saiyan isn't something you're going to use in the midst of a big fight. You might use it to warm up and get started, but you're not going to be using it for the full thing. But if you're trying to hold back and reserve your power, they could just have the characters use Super Saiyan 2 instead. It's not much of an improvement for how it's used now, but having it be the quote-unquote holding back form, at least it's something to give it some use. And you would think this would be the case. I'm sure by now they'd have great control over it. And it's stronger than regular Super Saiyan, so just use that instead. But as you could probably tell from how I'm describing it, this isn't a bad form, and I don't think it's a contender for the worst. And as sad as it makes me to say, the next one I think may be a contender, that being Super Saiyan 3. Personally, I'm a fan of Super Saiyan 3. Narratively, I don't like it, and in terms of how it's used, I don't like it either. But if we're being honest here, I actually like how this form looks. I know a lot of people call it ugly, but I like it. Sue me, I don't care. I think it looks cool. Personal opinions aside, this form functionally doesn't work too well. It gets even less use than Super Saiyan 2. I mean, in the Buu Saga, Gotenks used it and Goku used it against Kid Buu, but outside of that, it's mainly just used for showing off. Like when Goku first revealed it, or when he accidentally transformed into it when he was fighting Kale and Caulifla, or when he attempts to fight Beerus and gets absolutely destroyed. But it's weird because as soon as this form was introduced, a downside was introduced too. When Goku first showed it off, it was made to seem great, really strong and awesome. But then when he uses it against Kid Buu, there is a big issue. This form takes a lot of energy to use, and it's not really easy to retain ki. You can see Goku was trying to charge up to make an attack against Kid Buu, but he couldn't charge up because the ki kept leaking out of him. Even with how strong this form is, 4 times stronger than Super Saiyan 2, it's just so draining that it kinda makes it useless to use. So while it is a contender for the first form, again, we're here trying to fix these. If you want to fix Super Saiyan 3, it's simple. Just like with the previous stages of Super Saiyan, you can make it easier to use. As the form is now, it's like trying to inflate a balloon with a small hole in it. You can keep pumping air into it and trying to get the balloon as big as possible, but it'll never reach its full potential because that air will always leak out. And that's essentially what Super Saiyan 3 is. You need to find a way to patch that hole. It's a very simple solution, figure out a way around the ki leak. Of course, the form won't be as strong as something like God or Blue, but this can at least make it useful. It's a shame because all that great power is going to waste. It would be a really strong form if you got around the ki leak. But again, as it is now, it is a contender for one of the worst forms. Next up, let's talk about Super Saiyan God. This form is a really weird case. Not that there's anything bad about it, no, it's just kinda that it was abandoned midway through Super. At least in the anime version. It was relevant in the first arc for obvious reasons. Then we kinda just forget about it until the Tournament of Power where Goku kinda uses it, and then we see it in the Broly movie for a bit, but overall, Blue's the main focus now. So there's no problems with Super Saiyan God, and I don't think it's one of the contenders for the worst transformation in the series. But since we're also here fixing stuff, let's try and make this form more useful. And actually the anime did show a really great way to improve this and make it more useful. This was both in the Tournament of Power and in the manga version of the story. Goku tries it out against Dispo and Vegeta uses it against Goku Black in the manga. The God to Blue switch. When attacking, the user stays in Super Saiyan God, but right when they're about to hit their opponent, they go into Super Saiyan Blue. This is actually a really genius idea and I hope we see this more in Super because we haven't really seen it too much. It gives God a lot more use. The main idea behind it is that God is a lot less taxing on the body. It's much easier on the stamina. This caused a misconception in the community that God is faster than Blue, but that's not the case. Really what's happening is it's a lot less draining than Blue. And because of that, Goku or Vegeta can use it at max speed and not lose too much energy. But they're still able to use the power of Super Saiyan Blue when attacking. This way they can attack with the same force while using less stamina. And really I think this is the best way we can have the form brought back into the franchise. We're kind of far gone now and Blue is the standard, but if we start using God like this, it could become a lot more useful in the future. But besides that, there's no functional issues with this form. I know a lot of people have narrative issues with this, but talking about how forms work narratively, that's kind of another video for another day. Finally, we have Super Saiyan Blue. And I'm talking about regular Super Saiyan Blue here. There's 2 offshoots here, but they're exclusive forms, and like I said at the beginning of the video, we're only covering forms that we know other people can access. So we won't be talking about Blue Evolution, and since the manga treats Super Saiyan Rose as a godly version of Super Saiyan Blue, that technically is another offshoot of the form, but we're not going to count it here since it's exclusive to Goku Black. Of course there's Blue Kaioken too, but that's just a technique stacked on top of it. Plus it's Goku exclusive, so I'm not going to count that here. As for regular Blue, we've seen that there is actually a drawback to it. It seems pretty draining, at least at first. Of course, Goku and Vegeta get much better control over it as the series goes on, kinda losing hope. They can incorporate this into the series and actually make it a great improvement on regular Blue. It kinda works in a similar way as regular Super Saiyan Grade 4. where the user finds a way to use Super Saiyan Blue at its maximum efficiency. When Goku first uses it, we see him absorb his aura completely. But there is a big issue with it. You need a lot of focus for it, because you're trying to retain that aura and not let it go. You need to be focused on holding in all that power. If you don't use it properly or have great control over it, it'll just backfire and make things worse. So my proposal for how to improve Super Saiyan Blue, it's a pretty simple one. Bring Perfected Blue into the anime officially. And simply put, they can focus on trying to improve this. But as I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's an issue with that. So all this was hypothetical, just spitballing ideas of how forms can be brought back to usefulness. But the issue now is both Goku and Vegeta have greatly surpassed these forms. Even if they were to improve past forms, there's no real point anymore. Since the manga is the farthest ahead, we can use that as a reference. Goku's focus on Ultra Instinct and trying to improve that, which isn't even a Saiyan transformation. In canon, Vegeta's been the only one to actually use Blue Evolution. And he hasn't even been focused on improving that. Rather, in the Moro arc, he was trying to learn new techniques, and it seems that in the Granola arc, he's going to be doing the same once more. We may have actually reached a point where Saiyan transformations are being abandoned. At least partially. Even look at someone like Gohan. He relies on Ultimate now, and now that's an issue because that's a much better form. I even made a video about it, which I'll link above. But it just goes to show that everyone's outgrown Saiyan forms. Well, besides the Universe 6 Saiyans and I guess Broly, but we haven't really seen them since their debuts. But the big question now is which of these Saiyan transformations is the worst, and in my opinion, I think Grade 3 is actually the worst. Narratively, it actually kind of fits. It's a way to show that brute strength won't always help you get your way. This is made explicitly clear by Goku and Vegeta. But the form itself is just kinda bad. It's a really awkward step in between Grade 2 and Grade 4. And the form is never shown to be useful. There's no real point trying to improve it because it's just bad from the start. It gives a power boost, but the downsides are just too much and it counters all that. It was useless in its debut, and it's still useless now, even more so. But with that, I think we answered the question that we needed. I know there was stuff left out of this video like Super Saiyan 4, Legendary Super Saiyan Rage, etc. But again, I only wanted to cover stuff that anyone could access. And in the case of stuff like Super Saiyan 4 or Limit Breaker, I only wanted to talk about stuff from the original manga and Super. But let me know below, it is a discussion video after all, which Saiyan form do you think is the worst? Which forms do you think should return and why? How would you make them return? And how would you improve past forms? Leave any thoughts in the comments below. I'll be sure to check them out to see what you guys think. We might as well start discussions from a discussion video. Anyways, if you liked the video, be sure to drop a like. And if you're new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, why not subscribe? You can also hit that bell icon to get notified about any future uploads on my channel, including more discussion videos like this one. Anyways, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.